The very latest on Sasha Banks' status with New Japan Pro Wrestling and her plans for Wrestle Kingdom 17 in January, as she appears to be done with WWE, with reports indicating there could be plans for multiple matches with New Japan Pro Wrestling. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into, and one of the biggest stories this week, of course, is Sasha Banks. Her exit from WWE, seemingly, her status with New Japan Pro Wrestling, the report suggesting that Banks will be at the big Tokyo Dome show in January, one of, if not, New Japan's biggest event of the year, and Sasha Banks, the boss, also known as Mercedes Varnado, is scheduled to be appearing at the event, or at the very least, being brought to the show by New Japan Pro Wrestling, and now seemingly it's almost been confirmed by outlets that Banks could indeed be done with WWE for now. So, Mike Johnson, of course, of PW Insider, recently provided a huge update on Mercedes Varnado's wrestling future, reporting that several sources close to the situation expect the former WWE Women's Champion to be at New Japan Wrestle Kingdom 17 in January. Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select then provided an interesting update, noting that their New Japan Pro Wrestling sources wouldn't confirm or deny whether there were plans for Banks to appear at the Tokyo Dome show. Dave Meltzer initially noted on Wrestling Observer Radio that nobody there in New Japan knew about plans for Varnado ahead of PW Insider's report. Meltzer now reports that Varnado at the January 4, 2023 show is indeed happening. Taking to Twitter initially, Dave Meltzer wrote, quote, "Sasha Banks at the Tokyo Dome News, Mike Johnson first reported it, is confirmed." While it's currently unclear what Varnado will do at Wrestle Kingdom 17, it has been speculated that she will confront Kairi, who will be defending the IWGP Women's Championship on the show. Now, IWGP World Heavyweight Champion Jay White has also reacted to reports about Mercedes Varnado's New Japan Pro Wrestling debut, interestingly stating that he didn't want to talk about it too much, but he would welcome her into the Bullet Club. Now, in an interview with Fightful, Jay White stated he hasn't heard anything about plans for Varnado to appear on the New Japan show. He noted that he'd love to introduce himself to her, believing that Varnado would be a nice addition to his Bullet Club faction. However, it's really this updated report from Meltzer that's really now getting people talking. As I mentioned, it was first broken by Mike Johnson of PW Insider that Mercedes Varnado is expected to be at New Japan's Wrestle Kingdom 17 event on January 4th, which of course would be her first pro wrestling appearance since her WWE suspension in May earlier this year. Varnado, alongside her tag team partner Naomi, allegedly walked out ahead of the May 16 episode of Monday Night Raw, leading to both being stripped of their WWE Women's Tag Team Championships and receiving indefinite suspensions without pay. Now, that was in the Vince McMahon, John Laurinaitis regime. Things have changed now with Triple H running the company, certainly the creative and talent relations side. But Dave Meltzer, during Wrestling Observer Radio, has now provided an update on the prospect of Varnado appearing at New Japan's biggest show of the year, seemingly confirming the news, as well as noting she's agreed to multiple dates with the company. Certainly a big development from the initial report. The initial report suggested that Banks was just being brought to the one show, but Meltzer's now expanding, saying it's multiple dates with New Japan. As such, her time with WWE appears to be done as of right now, with Meltzer also revealing that AEW may be able to reach an agreement on payment that WWE have been unable to do thus far. This was the quote he said, quote, "She is going to the show. She will be appearing on the show. She will not wrestle on the show. She has dates with New Japan in her deal. I do not believe it is signed. She still could sign with WWE and this could all fall apart. But she has pretty much agreed to their terms, so as far as they're concerned, they have a deal. She will not be Sasha Banks. She'll be Mercedes Moan or whatever name she's going to go by. She will be there as part of a deal to work with New Japan. I do not know how AEW fits in. Obviously, everyone is going to jump to the speculation that she is the mystery partner for Saraya against Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker on the Forum show January 11th. And now, if it's not her, then it's going to be a terrible disappointment. Perhaps it is. New Japan cannot afford to pay the numbers WWE wasn't willing to pay her, I can say that. AEW could obviously afford that, so it is a deal where does she do both? Perhaps. That I cannot confirm at all. I know when I asked AEW about it, I got a non-answer. Now, Venado, of course, has previously teased a match between herself and Kairi for the IWGP Women's Championship across her social media platforms. At the event on January 4th, Kairi is set to defend said title for the first time against Tam Nakano, and thus Venado may make an appearance following the match to challenge the eventual winner, with a date in February previously being reported by Meltzer as this possible match date between Kairi and Banks. Meltzer continued, further clarifying that as of recording right now, Venado is believed to be done with WWE. However, the lack of official communication may mean that WWE could still agree to terms and thus throw the aforementioned New Japan plans up in the air, saying, quote, "I do not know what the situation is with AEW. I only know the situation with New Japan, and she has agreed to go to that show. I think everyone can probably figure out the most likely scenario, which would be challenging the winner of the Women's IWGP Championship match, and that she is going to make appearances for New Japan in 2023. And she is, barring a last-minute change and the fact she made this deal already, at least verbally, because they have dates booked for her now, barring a last-minute change and her backing out on what she's agreed to do, she's not going back to WWE. But you cannot always rule that out, and this may be one of those situations where WWE goes, we don't want her going to AEW, maybe we'll jump the number up. Or maybe they'll just say she's more trouble than she's worth, she's asking for so much money, which of course was the attitude a month ago, so that's kind of where it all stands. January 4th, Tokyo Dome, and other dates, and Mercedes Moan, Mercedes Venado, or whatever name she's going to go with. But as of right now, she's done with WWE, but like I said, it could change at any moment. Now, Venado, of course, recently shared a number of photos of her training across Mexico and the United States, and thus, regardless of the promotion, a return to the ring certainly appears to be drawing closer and closer and closer. Time will, of course, tell as to whether Venado appears at Wrestle Kingdom 17, debuts in AEW as Soraya's tag team partner on January 11th, or even possibly, now unlikely, but still possibly, returns to WWE. Regardless, next month is likely to be a huge one for the former multi-time WWE Women's Champion, and as always, if we get any details on this, we'll let you know here on the channel. It's certainly very, very interesting, and as I mentioned, Jay White certainly said he would be open to having her in the Bullet Club. It's an interesting one because I think that the way that Meltzer's talking with that certainly seems like he's trying to cover all bases. It's not been a particularly good year for Meltzer when it comes to WWE news, and I know that this is more New Japan centric now and possibly AEW centric, definitely New Japan centric, because she's going to be at that Wrestle Kingdom 17 show. But Meltzer's been kind of caught with egg on his face a couple of times this year when it relates to WWE stories, because maybe the sources he once had in WWE aren't as strong as they once were, or WWE does purposely put out misinformation to full journalists, full dirt sheets and full outlets and steer them in one direction when something else is happening. But this doesn't feel like one of those situations. I mean, unless WWE panics, and they could panic right now. Look, Mercedes Venado's a massive star, and I know that people might say, well, there are bigger stars in WWE on the women's roster than Sasha Banks. In their mind, they might see, Becky Lynch or Ronda Rousey or Charlotte Flair or Bayley as being bigger than Sasha Banks, but Sasha Banks certainly is right up there, and she's got that crossover mainstream appeal that maybe some of the other ones don't have. I mean, because she's already done it. You can talk about her family as well. She is the cousin of Snoop Dogg. She's already in the Star Wars universe. She's already done everything there is to do, frankly, in WWE. She's been the Raw Women's Champion. She's been the SmackDown Women's Champion. She's been the Women's Tag Team Champion. She's main evented WrestleMania. She was one half of the first ever black female main event in WrestleMania history. That was at WrestleMania 37. So certainly, again, there's not a lot for her left to do in WWE. So I think when it comes to that, there is the conversation of, well, even if the money was comparable, would she want to go back there and rehash and redo what she's already done? She's a wrestling fan at the end of the day too. She's a wrestling fan who appreciates Japanese women wrestling. She appreciates other companies. She's a student of the game, and giving her desire possibly to wrestle in Japan, she might think, I can always go back to WWE at any point. I really could. I can go back to WWE after I've done this. She can do her run in New Japan. She can do her run in AEW. And then she can go, okay, I'll go back to WWE now. And they'll still pay her. And look, again, as Dave Meltzer says, maybe she's not going to get the money in New Japan that she would in WWE, but I'm not sure it's about the money at this point. I think it's about scratching the itch of pro wrestling, which she loves, but at the same time, she wants the freedom and the flexibility to do the outside projects that she's now committed to. Again, she's in the Star Wars universe. She's just wrapped up a film role. She wants to get into music as well. She's talked about recording a studio album. She's in fashion shows at this point. Maybe she just thinks, actually, you know what? To go back to the WWE schedule, it would take a lot for me to do that financially, and I'm willing to take less money but do less dates and make my matches and make my appearances mean more, because she is a big star. And when it comes to New Japan, when they've just launched this women's division with a crossover with Stardom, I mean, talk about a shot in the arm by getting Sasha Banks to come in and possibly win the championship and hold it for a year and make dates in Japan and make dates in America. That would be massive for New Japan to get that division up and running. The same as it would be for AEW. Again, for me, it's never been an issue of talent with AEW. It's been an issue of booking with AEW. It's been an issue of, do you want your females to main event the show? Do you want your women's division to be competing in multiple matches? Do you want them to main event pay-per-views? Because the answer for me always has been no from management. As a viewer, that's what I want to see. As a viewer, I look at, even during the Vince McMahon regime, when you could argue that there were plenty of more positives on AEW programming than WWE programming, it's actually balanced out quite a lot now that Triple H is in charge of WWE, and AEW, the products got a lot colder since then. But one of the things that WWE always had over AEW when it came to the product, the in-ring product, was that the women's division in WWE is objectively better. And it's not necessarily just because of talent, even though I do think WWE has the better talent in their women's division. The real reason that the women's division is better in WWE than it is in AEW is because the women's division in WWE is treated seriously. It's treated seriously in the sense of it will open the show and it will close the show. They'll build around that whole show with the women. They've main evented WrestleMania on multiple occasions. When has AEW ever main evented a pay-per-view? There are 4 pay-per-views, 5 if you count Forbidden Door, but there are 4 pay-per-views. When has it ever been main evented by women? Ever. This never has. And even the fact of when you bring this situation up to Tony Khan, he points out these specific occasions. Go, wow, the first ever Grand Slam edition of Dynamite, it was Britt Baker versus Ruby Soho. That wasn't the main event, though. The main event happened to go on first because they needed a time limit draw. He can talk about, wow, Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa. Okay, you're talking about 2 specific occasions. It should be a situation where you can't pick out specific occasions because it happens all the time. It shouldn't even be a discussion point. And I do feel like Sasha Banks coming in, Mercedes Varnado coming in to the company, into AEW. I hate the term game changer. I think it's overused and it's become a meme at this point, a trolling point for AEW on social media. But I just think it forces Tony Khan to put the females in the main event, to build the show around females at point, because Mercedes Varnado is that big of a star. If you've got someone on your show that's actively in The Mandalorian, a huge Disney Plus hit, a Star Wars hit, you recognize that and you build your show around it. That's cross-platform recognition. That's brand awareness, because then it becomes, it's not just Mercedes Varnado that's in The Mandalorian, it's AEW wrestler Mercedes Varnado's in The Mandalorian. That's a big deal for AEW. And it's something that you could look at when they go, actually, you know what? AEW is trying to invest in their women's division, and she would immediately become one of the highest paid people on the roster. Maybe not the highest, because there are some people on massive deals there, but certainly she'd be on a really high wage there in AEW. And again, that forces Tony Khan into a corner, because he goes, I've got to get a return on my investment there. I've got to put her in the main event. I've got to sell tickets. I've got to sell merchandise. I've got to get the machine behind her. And maybe Sasha Banks might look at it when she goes to WWE. Look, I know I'm a big star there. I know that I'm one of the 4 horsewomen and all that kind of stuff, but I'm not treated as the person, the boss. It's just a nickname. But in WWE's eyes, Ronda Rousey's a bigger star, Becky Lynch is a bigger star, and frankly, in their eyes, Charlotte Flair's a bigger star. Maybe she wants to go to a smaller pond and be a bigger fish. Maybe she wants to be treated as, in the women's division in AEW, it's Sasha Banks and then it's everyone else. Maybe that's what she wants, and she would be treated like that. Same in New Japan. So, barring WWE really panicking now, going crazy and just being like, okay, we don't want to lose a big asset to the competitor, to a rival, and maybe it might be a case of New Japan and AEW working on a deal together because, as Dave Meltzer speculates, New Japan can't afford Sasha Banks. But part of me just goes, again, I don't think it's about the money for Sasha Banks in Japan. I think it's about her ticking off something off a bucket list that she's always wanted to do. So as of right now, it would appear that she is done with WWE, which makes a lot of sense with that January 1st date, because that sounds like a date in which a contract expired the day before. Because people have always said, well, oh, she's still under contract to WWE. How could she agree to this? How could she do this? Well, as of right now, she hasn't signed anything, according to Meltzer. And the reason why is because maybe she can't sign anything until January 1st. Maybe it's a case of either she's been released already, her contract expired already, or if she was released as a 90-day non-compete thing, or if she was even given a conditional release, it was a case of, we've released you, but per your original contract, you can't go anywhere until January 1st. Something is specific around that date. And now that that is the case, it feels like come January 1st, she's going to start booking wrestling dates again. We're going to see her January 4th inside the Tokyo Dome. We're going to see her January 11th in the Kia Forum in LA, if speculation is correct. So there's still a lot of time between now and then, about 3 weeks or so, just over 3 weeks. So on January 4th, that Tokyo Dome show, Wrestle Kingdom 17. So I think more details will come out and we'll hear more about it, more speculation. Don't rule out WWE just yet, because according to Meltzer, again, how much you want to take from that is up to you. Again, he's very hit and miss nowadays. But until pen's put to paper, anything's possible. Anything's possible. And Triple H has shown in his brief tenure as the head of creative and head of talent relations that he's more than willing to cough up the money if he's pushed. This was the same thing we heard when it came to Bray Wyatt, right? They were in negotiations, contract talks stalled, they were apart on money. Bray Wyatt's on television every single week now. So either Bray Wyatt bent or Triple H bent. Chances are, I think Bray Wyatt knew the money he could get. Triple H saw the money that Bray Wyatt could draw and has drawn for WWE. He probably coughed up the money. So if Triple H still believes that there is a chance he can sign Sasha Banks back to WWE and it's just a money thing, then history suggests that he would do it. So don't rule out at this stage something happening when it comes to, oh, it all fell through. But I think at this stage, I think it would be good. I think it would be good for wrestling. I think it would be good to see Sasha Banks in different environments. I think that what we have seen over the last couple of years with the existence of AEW and with New Japan, when New Japan's thriving, and bear in mind, New Japan's been ice cold over the last couple of years, primarily due to the pandemic and some of the strict rules and the lack of travel. I think it would be good for wrestling, for a big name like Sasha Banks to be appearing in New Japan and to be appearing in AEW. I think that, you know, maybe it needs something like that just to spark things back up again. I don't think that Sasha Banks going to AEW's the Hall and Nash and the NWO for WCW in '96. I don't think that's the case at all. But I do think that sometimes you need stuff like this just to spark things back up again. And it's amazing how momentum goes like this. Sasha Banks going to AEW doesn't take away any of the momentum and the size that WWE has. They'll always be the bigger company. But I think that it's always good, as I've said, not to have a monopoly, always to have options and always have big talent showing that other options are viable. And it's going to be fascinating to see what happens. We've seen big-ish names jump to AEW from WWE, the biggest probably being Bryan Danielson. But you know, we haven't seen that in terms of female talent. We've still yet to see a big female name leave WWE and come in. We've seen female names, but nothing of the level of Sasha Banks. And it's going to be interesting how that's booked, how that's perceived, and what she does in AEW if she goes there, or what she's going to do in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Either way, though, guys, we'll cover all of it. So be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Let me know your thoughts on the latest Sasha Banks to New Japan Pro Wrestling and possibly AEW stories in the comment section below. And I'll speak for you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.